Hey gang, welcome to episode 2 of What Makes This Solo Great. This time we're covering a song from Cream's last album, written by both Eric Clapton and George Harrison. It's Badge, coming up next. Okay, so we all know Clapton is probably the guy in terms of development of blues rock guitar. Influenced by guys like B.B., Albert, and Freddie King, which is probably where he developed his vocal style, he became very influential in his own right, not only on his moves on the guitar, but also in his sound, which really became a template for all of the rock that followed. So you really got to study Clapton. But why Badge? Badge is a song written by Clapton and Harrison. Why does that matter? Who cares about that? Well, at least in my opinion, here's why I mention it. It's because I think that the collaborations that Clapton did at that time, primarily with Harrison and then later with Duane Allman, really brought out the best of his singing and playing. Think of While My Guitar Gently Weeps, which is just another one of those fantastic solos and songs. But anyway, let's get on to Badge. Here's a demo. Let's check it out. Well, I hope I did that reasonable justice. Now, the solo is played over the bridge of the song. Interestingly enough, the word badge comes from Clapton's misunderstanding of Harrison's writing of the word bridge. Apparently it was scribbled and he got it wrong. So anyway, the solo is over the bridge of Badge. So the bridge looks a little bit like this, or sounds a little bit like this. And that's essentially repeated over and over. So the song is in the key of D, and Clapton chose primarily to express himself in D minor pentatonic, or at least you can understand most of the lines in D minor pentatonic. So that was pretty common for the day, so big deal. What makes this song really click? What makes this solo really great? Here are some things I really, really love about this solo. Number one, it has a very strong vocal quality and it's really, really melodic. So Clapton was known for that, and this solo really showcases it. Here's a couple of examples. First example is probably right out of the box, first bends. Both that first bend, the vibrato that he was famous for, and then of course these half-step bends that he did all over the place. It really emphasizes the essence of the blues. Going between major and minor is kind of like balancing sadness and happiness, which is really the essence of the blues. Another thing about this solo is that it's got a lot of call and response in it. Now that's a very powerful device because it allows the listener to participate more actively in what's going on because they recognize things. That's when you play a line that's very similar, or multiple lines that are very similar but just a little bit different. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. Let me show you an example. Here's an example from the solo. And so forth. Did you notice that this sort of idea is in there quite often, but it doesn't repeat itself exactly. It repeats itself and it allows the listener to connect, but it doesn't repeat exactly. Another thing this solo's really got going for it is that Clapton mixes up the rhythms of his licks, which adds a lot of interest. So he plays something like this. So that line right there, for example, that sort of stutter step inserts itself into these licks and just kind of makes it much more interesting. Now the solo pays homage to two of Clapton's influences, B.B. King and Albert King. There's a couple of lines in there, but it moves in a way that's very different. It's sort of like perpetual motion. There's no wasted lines, and in fact that last line leads perfectly to the rest of the song as we've come out of this sort of ethereal bridge, brings us back down to earth, the rest of the song, and that's it. And isn't that really the hallmark of a great solo, is that it makes the rest of the song even greater? I think Badge really does that. If you like this video, why don't you click this one? I think you'll like this one as well, and we will see you on down the road.